I'm Antonio. So I'm a mental health ambassador like, all round to sum it up, but I volunteer for many charities. I honestly hate this part because I always end up missing out a few charities, but
It's
some
like, you know, when people like do their award speeches, like at the Brit, leave people out. I think it's like the most nerve-wracking thing when you have to kind of remember
yeah,
everyone.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean,
So go
I
on,
try
give
my
it a
best to sum.
go.
All right, so we've got mind, mind and Harrow, rethink, papyrus, beyond, partnership for Young London. I'm missing a few already.
Young London.
Yeah. Partnership for Young London, yes. Um, I said
Do you do
papyrus.
stuff with Ignite
Shut.
Harrow, or
Yeah, Ignite
do you do
Harrow,
stuff
give it
with?
out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 8 is good enough. That's the best I've done. That's the best I've
I
done.
mean,
I'll
I
leave
just
that.
don't understand how you do it. It's unbelievable that you're spread across all these mental health charities. I think it's just incredible that you're
Yeah, you know what?
that you're able to do
Right.
this and be a uni student. It's like amazing. I want to hear how you do it all, and we'll talk more
Yeah,
about it.
I presume that's what is on a lot of people's minds, the fact that, there's so much involvement all around in different charities and still my own life to balance as on.
Mm.
I think it really and truly, one thing I always tell people is that one, when it's something that you're passionate about and it's your actual hobby, it doesn't actually always feel like work. So, I'm doing all these projects and volunteering willingly, knowing that this is my passion. This is like
Mm.
a ball of fire that I have inside me that I want to do. Not someone has suggested or influenced me to do. It's that ball of fire inside of me that I want to do. So firstly, that makes everything a balance because I guess if I'd done it, like say if I was working 3 jobs, that in itself, okay, is stressful because it's 3 jobs. I might not enjoy it. I might not have a passion for it. I'm basically doing it for the benefit of whatever it may be, income or experience or whatever. But this is my passion. This is something that
Mm.
I hold so strongly in my heart. And then
Mm.
the other thing is really just separating that time. So I mean, you could like time management, except contradicting myself that I've arrived late. Time management a long way. Yeah,
No, you let yourself off the hook. You're all good.
yeah. So I
But
think
I'm just gonna shut my door because a lot of noise. I can hear a lot of noise. Giving them a message to be quiet. I'm back.
uh,
Yeah, you were saying. So go on. Hmm.
yeah. I think it's yeah. So those 3 things. If you've got a passion for it, if it's your actual hobby, and as long as you balance out with your time management, I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. Obviously, let's
Yeah.
work out quick maths. Like 12 hours are gone to you sleeping. Do you still have 12 hours? Someone once told me, like when I said to them, I don't feel I have enough time to do some of the things I want to do. And he said to me, then wake up earlier. Do you know what I mean? So it's really that fact that you just level out. Like there are 12 hours left over of whatever you want to do. So where you might think you might not have enough time, it's because you're not prioritizing your time or you're not
Sure.
putting time management into it. And like sometimes as well, people put a lot of things into they visualize things in their mind and that creates like a habit because you think there's so much going on. But if
Yeah.
you illustrate it out on paper, you can see, okay, I can break this down here. And this is pretty much simple lessons that I learned from just high school, GCSEs, revision and all these things. Like every lesson I think there you can use to your own personal experience.
Hmm. It's kind of like the hidden curricular, I guess, at school. It's not like you're necessarily taught it. You're taught the kind of straight subjects, but in order to do well in those subjects, and like you say, assessments and things, you have to learn time management and prioritization of tasks and being able to juggle, because it sounds like, you juggle a lot. And I feel like you do so much for other people in terms of your mental health activism work. I'm sure because of the struggles you've had yourself, you also have to make sure that your glass isn't half empty but rather half full, and that you're constantly topping up on self-care to kind of be able to pull from a fuller jug. And so how do you manage to do things for others and to spread the word about greater awareness for severe mental illness, as well as kind of making sure that you're managing okay?
Yeah, I mean, first things first is that, as you touched on, with the amount of involvement I have and the people that appreciate the amount of involvement I have with them, indirectly or directly, they of course understand that my mental health first has to come first. So in that sense, it's
Amazing.
actually given me a big bubble of a support system. So, separate and outside of these organizations, individuals will allow or willingly give their time to, just make sure I'm all right and put things in place that,
Mm.
are going okay for me. Like with one of the charities, I was like getting emails from different individuals within the charity, but the manager emailed me separately and was like, listen, if too many of my people are emailing, let me know and we'll tell them to, give you a break and stuff. But to be honest, it's that support system. But even with that, I don't actually, I guess, utilize it as much as I can. Like I really try to tell myself, no, I can do it, I can do it. And it's not, I guess, trying to burn myself out. It's, again, that ball of passion, that fire within me tells me that I'm not doing enough, so I have to keep going, keep going, keep going. It's just like an athlete who really wants to win that Olympic, who wants to get that gold medal. They have to go that extra mile to be that person, that number one. But for us, or for someone like myself, I know as well, I acknowledge my mental health. I've got the best knowledge of my own mental health. I've been going through it since I'm 16. I'm 23 now. So I've got enough insight and experience to recognize when something's wrong. And when something is wrong, I know how to manage it, how to deal with it, how to cope with it. Thankfully, I've never gotten to that
Mm.
breaking point since the last time I was in hospital. But again, it's just, not, I guess, hiding from it, but acknowledging it and knowing that you are going to have these days where, you're feeling anxious or you're nervous or you're upset or whatever it may be. It's first thing first is acknowledging it. And when you acknowledge it, you know how to recognize it. When you know how to recognize it, you know how to deal with it. And I think that's how really and truly I get through it. And as well, like main thing for me, keeping busy really helps. Like before, when I was really like in my worst part of my mental health, I used to complain that I had nothing to do, no schedule, nothing on my plate. But now I have so much on my plate, I'm not going to start complaining that I have so much on my plate. I'm going to
Mm.
manage it and decide how I use what's on my plate. So, yeah.
Mm. I feel like we honestly speak the same language. It's like amazing because I feel very strongly about having purpose, and I think having purpose is something that really helps with recovery and really helps with a sense of identity, and it also helps with community, because when you have purpose, you have stronger social connections because you can do things more for others. And I just think it's, super important. It's kind of like why I love medical school, and why I chose to kind of do that is because it's such a wonderful purpose to be able to care for others. And I was going to ask you how you kind of create boundaries for when you do kind of want to do a lot of things, but you need to realize that actually people are asking maybe too much of me, and how you actually still remain busy and still remain kind of fulfilled with all the activism work you're doing, but creating boundaries when it gets a bit too much, and especially with university pressures and things like that too. How do you create those boundaries, and do you yourself have an issue with saying no? Are you a yes man? Like, how do you manage those situations?
Yeah, I did start off being a yes man, definitely. Like I just thought to myself, like when I was a yes man, I thought to myself, man, I don't have like, I guess, the stripes to even say no to anyone yet. Like I've got to just say yes and see where I go with this, especially because how I started into this wasn't intentionally. I first got into
Mm.
it because I simply wanted to gain experience for my psychology degree. That's all it was. But that turned into something else. So yeah, at the beginning I was sort of a yes man, and as time went by, a lot of people would tell me, look, you're gonna have to find time to actually, well, not time, but you're gonna have to find yourself a way to say to people, no, I can't do this. This is too much. And it went from being told, know your time, like, and recognize where you might have to say no to things, to also know that you might have to say no to some of the loveliest things you want to do. Like, they will be the loveliest things and they'll be so attractive, but the time isn't on your hands. And one thing you don't want to do is fill that bucket up again. Like, you will have opportunity
Yeah.
filling, but if it overfills, all those opportunities mean nothing if you don't manage them. So
Mm.
where I guess I set boundaries now, I think I tried to just level it out, because before it was a broader spectrum of what I wanted to do, especially within mental health. You know, it was mental health awareness. I wanted to really focus on giving people a better experience than I did, especially within similar backgrounds. But then I said to myself, that created a sort of income of very, very different avenues. So I thought to myself, okay, let me single down and actually specify what type of mental health awareness I want to go into. So for me, it was championing young Black mental health, because that was what meant the most to me. Champion young Black mental health. And in fact, it's not as much about creating a voice where people need to recognize support is needed, but it's more about creating a more positive atmosphere around young Black mental health. Because even now, when we're talking about it, or when people are interviewing me, I'm always being sort of asked the dark, gloomy parts of my mental health, and it's always like I'm speaking about it with a dark cloud over my head. But I don't want that feeling. Like, we can, as me and you are now, we can smile and talk about experiences. We can, joke about them to a certain extent, and we can like positively speak about them, not just speak about them to create a positive change, but positively tell our stories. So I just specified myself in that, and champion young Black mental health, and making the speaking about it a positive atmosphere. So that singled out how much I wanted to say yes or no to, because now I know if someone comes to me with opportunity, does it match what I want to achieve? If it doesn't, then it's easier to say no. If it does, then yeah.
It has to match your values 100%, and that's how you live an authentic life. If you have an opportunity that matches your values, it's an easy yes. If you can tell that someone's got an agenda and it just doesn't quite feel right, it's, a slam dunk no. And I love what you were kind of saying about talking about really challenging adverse experiences in a positive light, this reframing of kind of dark times. And I love the phrase that you use a lot on social media around making lemonade out of lemons. So can you talk a little bit about that, and when that kind of concept came to you, and just give us examples of how you live your life like that?
Yeah, I want everyone, just to start off, I want everyone, when they see lemons or lemonades, to think of Antonio. That's the main thing, Anytime anyone sees a lemon or lemonade, they think straight away of that. But yeah, it first came around when I was taking part in a young Black males mental health panel event with Mind, and I was telling my experience, and one of the questions I got asked as a panelist was, how did you turn your situation from a break to a mate situation? And my answer just came to me, and I said, I used to hear this phrase, when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. I never ever knew what that meant. Like, I'd think, lemons, lemonade, what does that mean? Until I went through it, and I thought, right, okay, I completely get what lemons to lemonade mean. And I answered, I said, yes. So, I had to just learn to make lemons into lemonade. And it's not just making lemons into lemonade by yourself, but you have the different ingredients you need for lemonade. There are probably different roles that people will have for lemonade. Those are your resources. So when you're in a bad place, don't just automatically think you're going to turn those lemons into lemonade. Use the resources needed to make lemonade that are around you to make that lemonade as well. And yeah, I think for me, that really like stood out to myself, along with a lot of other people. It was like, how do you actually take something that you've heard before, have no relation to it, go through an experience, and it's like, it's a light bulb in top of your head. And how I live my lemons to lemonade now is just how I tell people, like, you want to make, typically lemons are sour, but you want to make a lemonade that's quite sweet. And lemonades aren't ever stopped being made, and lemons aren't ever stopped being thrown at you. You're constantly turning lemons into lemonade. So for me, it's like, I might wake up feeling I'm feeling bad, so I'll have a bad morning, right? But I will never tell myself I'm having a bad day, because that morning is my lemon. The rest of that day is my lemonade. So what am I gonna do to turn that morning lemon into a day of lemonade? I might just find something else to do. I might, tell myself, all right, so I'm feeling bad. What can I do to make things better? How can I tell myself after night, morning will follow, after morning, night will follow? How can I tell myself that this will not last, How can, you know, we all go through trials and tribulations, and we have to go through trials and tribulations. If we don't go through trials and tribulations, we don't know better. We don't learn better. So I think that's how I live lemons to lemonade. I tell myself I need those lemons to make that lemonade. Without those lemons, I can't make that lemonade.
Exactly. There is no light without darkness. I completely agree with you and absolutely love that. And I just think, wow, I'm going to really try and employ that, because what I've been kind of experiencing the last 3 weeks as I've been going through a little kind of small depressive episode that I'm kind of coming out of. And I have this habit when things, you know, get uncomfortable and bad, to kind of get my paintbrush and just broad brush stroke over the entire experience, when really it wasn't all bad. There were definitely some positive moments, some lovely social interactions, moments of kindness, but I have this tendency to just say, you know, the whole thing was bad. And that's why I really love and resonate with what you're saying about don't label your whole day as a bad day. Take the lemon and try and make something out of it. And I think that I'm definitely going to employ that after this, and I'm sure others on the chat will too, because I can see that Tash really loves that as well. And so tell us, so when was the last time you were in hospital? How many years ago was that?
Oh, when I was 18. Yeah, when I was 18.
Yeah, and you're now 23. So how long did it take you to have the strength after, you know, you went into recovery after being discharged from hospital, to go out and really do all this activism work? How long did it take for you to have the confidence and faith to start, you know, really public speaking, reaching out to others, talking openly as a young man about mental health? You know, how did it all come about?
Well, I actually only started 2 years ago, so 2019 was when I actually first started. How it came about, as I briefly touched before, I was at university, and I do a psychology degree. Before I was at University of Hull, just doing just a psychology degree, and I said to myself, all right, you know what, psychology degrees are becoming a lot more popular, and I keep hearing people telling me you need to get experience outside of university to really find yourself a job. So I thought, you know what can I do to really get that experience? I thought, let me just sign up to a charity. Let me just do it just to get some experience, you know. And I'll be honest with you, I did not even plan to get as involved. I literally was quite ignorant at the time, especially about my own mental health. And I just sit there, and I was sitting there one day in my university accommodation. I thought to myself, all right, I'll just sign up, but I won't really like do much. I'll just do it and just write something on my CV, and you know, that'll be it basically.
Yeah.
So I signed up to Mind in Hull and Yorkshire at first, because I was at University of Hull at the time, and they sent me an email, I think a week or two after I signed up, and they was like, yeah, we want some speakers to come into the University of Hull and speak about their experience. And as I was a yes man then, I said, yeah, of course I'll do it, why not? Now it came to the day to do it, I completely like went rogue. I didn't do it. I disappeared, and I didn't, yeah. So then I was having some problems still at the time with my mental health. And then I transferred back to London, moving to University of Essex. So as I'm back in London now, I thought to myself, oh man, look, I feel worse saying yes and not following through with it than saying yes and following through with it. So I thought to myself, yeah, we're going to do it again. We're going to try again. You know, that's the main thing I figured out. Yeah, try again. We're going to try again. So this time I signed up to Mind, National Mind. And they sent me an email back again. I remember the two ladies that emailed me, and their names were Sharon and Claire, and they said, yeah, we're looking for some speakers again to come and give a talk about their experiences at our staff induction day. So I thought to myself, okay, you know what? I'll say yes again. You know, I say yes too often. Yeah. So then the day came, and I thought this time, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Why not? I'm going to do it. So I went into their office in Stratford, and I walked in there, and I promise you, I was nervous, nervous. But anyway, I started talking and telling my story to the staff that were there. And you know, when you get into I guess the role of doing something, you know, you don't even know how well or bad you're doing. You're just in the role of it, and you're just doing it.
You're in the moment. You're in the present, 100%.
Exactly. And this is my story, like my experience that I'm telling. So I'm just sort of reliving what I went through. I'm not even thinking of it as what what it is that I'm doing. Anyway, I finished telling my story, and I just get like this amazing round of applause from all the staff, and like they're like, your experience was amazing, and so on, so on, so on. And you know, some of the staff individually even approached me and was like, do you want to take part in this? This is how I even first got into the young black steering group for mine. And then there was also a lady there from Time to Change, and she invited me to be part of Time to Change. So then I signed up to a Time to Change workshop. This is again my very first ever. So I've done the mind induction day now. Now I've gone to the Time to Change workshop in Walthamstow, and it's a speaking out training workshop. So we was sort of training to tell our stories in public. In public. And again, I've done the same thing there. I told my story, and this lady that I admire so much, and so glad she basically sparked my activism. After telling my story, she came up to me and she was like, "You're gonna be amazing. You're gonna influence so many people with your story. You keep doing what you're doing, and keep pushing for what you're pushing for." So after that, you know, 2 times now I've gotten this amazing reception. I'm starting to think to myself, "Oh, this is not what I planned for, but this feels like, you know,
it's meant to be."
Sort of thing." So then I got an email from Time to Change, from the new London coordinator, Lucy Bailey, and she emailed me individually, and she said, "Oh, Cristela has left you a really nice review. She said you have an amazing story to tell, and that you're going to change the lives of so many people, and that I should follow up with you," and so on. So I took that on board, and at the end of that email, she said, "What have you thought about being a media volunteer?" So I went and I thought, you know what, again, with saying yes, yeah, I'll be a media volunteer, why not? Being a media volunteer now, I've been asked to take part in my first ever media campaign. This was the Time to Change, which was See the Bigger Picture. And again, I said, yeah, they were filming 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in Brixton. So it was a bit of a, situation. But anyway, I went there, took part in it. When I'm sitting there, first of all, I'm sitting there just, you know, biting my fingers. I'm thinking, wow, this is like, because there's a camera here and there's a camera here. And I've never done this before. And I'm just like, and they could see that I was really sort of panicking. But the amazing thing is, they were so supportive in the sense that they were like, don't worry, take your time, have some breaks. And they gave me like different things to try and do. Eventually, I just thought, you know what? Sometimes you're so worried about looking bad that you just end up looking good. That's the thing. So yeah, I just ended up doing it, my first ever campaign, and from there it was just, the ball just kept on rolling. You know, that's when I got that sense of, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like, it made me feel so good that I was able to tell my story, and that people received it so well, that I thought, this is what I need to be doing. You know, this is why I suffered from a mental illness. It wasn't to be forever down. It was to find that purpose to inspire and help others. And I just took it on and on and on and on. Eventually now I've done like so many media opportunities, so many documentaries, news channels, and
EastEnders, like,
EastEnders.
what the hell, man? Tell us about that. That is just too cool. I got his name, what's his name? Stevie
Basula, Stevie Basula, yeah.
Tell us all about it. It's incredible. It's just also amazing how you've made such meaning out of your really, you know, really long-term struggles. And it's like positivity feeds positivity. You've had this whole ripple effect just by saying yes. It's kind of unlocked the key to just mountains more of opportunities and fulfillment. It's incredible.
Yeah, like I'll come on to Eastenders, but it's definitely what you just said. Like, you know, sometimes I think to myself, when I think, if I didn't suffer from my mental illness, would I have had the same opportunities I have now? Because, you know, sometimes that hardship brings on amazing opportunities. I think to myself, I don't regret ever going through what I went through, actually, because that's actually brought me a lot of opportunities. So yeah, but with the EastEnders, so that came with National Mind as well. So National Mind is probably the one, not even probably, they are the one that I've been heavily and mostly involved as a media volunteer. They're the ones, I guess, really got my confidence up as well in front of a camera. But yeah, so we've been, as the media department, as the young black male steering group, and as a media volunteer, Eastenders wanted to do a storyline on schizophrenia, but they wanted mine to support them with it to basically make sure they depicted it correctly. So so mine chose me to basically be that person that consults them on their storyline and basically gives them my story for them to follow. So in like I think February we had a meeting. It was the executive producer, the uh, another producer, writers, researchers, the actors, Stevie, Suzette, Danielle, and yeah. So all of them were on that call, and it was basically me just telling my story again, telling my experience, and then asking questions so that they could best like get an idea of how we're gonna tell his stories in our storyline. And yeah, so since February, we've been consulting them back and forth, giving them pointers here. That one workshop where I gave my experience. Then a couple of weeks ago, they invited me on set again. So that's the day that you see on my Instagram. So they invited me on set. And do you know what? When I got there, it was not anything I was expecting. Like, I think people underestimate what actors have to go through. I'm telling you that because at least I did. You know, like when I'm watching Stevie, it was the most amazing thing ever because he could quickly transition from his own personality to this personality who's meant to be a relation to myself. And they take like so many rehearsals, takes, and stuff. Like people, and yeah, but it was amazing because it felt like they were really listening. There's also the director on the day would come into the room where we was in the salon. They'd come into the room and he'd be like, "What did you think of that scene? What did you think of
Yeah.
that scene? Was it good? What should we change something? Should we, is something here that should we do?" And I would tell him,
Yours is the opinion they want, exactly. Does it,
"Yeah, so
is it authentic? Is it sound? Wow.
exactly." And at first, like I was like, wow, like this is like I thought like I'm under pressure because it's like I can easily say yes, no, and mess everything up, but again, when it's something you're passionate about, it's actually your story, like your experiences.
Absolutely.
Hardly you and then yeah, it was just that whole. We was there from 8:30 to 4:30.
Oh no.
You telling your story, and like I really appreciate you helping us out and giving your experience to us because we couldn't have done it without you. And like, and I kept saying to him, "No, like it's honestly my pleasure to have
Mm.
you depict the story, my story, or experience that I went through so well."
Mm.
He called over the rest of the cast as well and just like introduced me, and then we all just had a short conversation and took some pictures. And yeah, I mean since then I can't even quote Stevie. He's an amazing humble person. He's like I don't even know how to put it. He's a person that I want to be in the future. So
Mm.
yeah, it's yeah, and hopefully we have some more things going on too. And yeah, it's just
Just think that is so powerful. I think your experience truly epitomizes turning vulnerability into strength. Like you were probably the most important person on the set. You were the one that was kind of giving direction and being made to feel like you carried all the knowledge. And I think mental illness is something that we sometimes feel that people look down on, people want to kind of shy away from, people are embarrassed if they get it. And there you are, kind of with the expert knowledge, actually feeding into an artistic project that wouldn't have been the same without your input. So I just think it's really profound and amazing to see how kind of media is progressing. And I want to ask you, I mean, I know why it's important, but to kind of tell the audience, why is it so important that the media consult with experts by experience? How do you feel that with someone with lived experience of schizophrenia, how do you feel like it's been presented in the media over the years?
Yeah, you know what? I think to start off with, they weren't so good. Like, and when I say they weren't so good, I wouldn't necessarily. There's two sides to it. You know, there's, I guess the lighter side where they'd make things look positive but overly positive. So you know, we're talking going back Disney and like you know the Cinderellas and the princes, they would all be seen to be this strong, you know, man who couldn't have feelings. You know, they had to be this alpha male sort of thing. So as a child, you can imagine how much influence that has on your own image. Like even subconsciously, you can imagine how you'd think that's the type of person, that's the type of male I need to be. And then you had the darker side where you know every single mental health or homicide, serial, whatever it was, sort of thing that depicted mental health was shown as someone who was crazy and you know gruesome and that kind of stuff. So people had either a black or white image of mental health or mental illness. Like it was either that you have to be this perfect person, or if you're not that perfect person, you're this gruesome, bloody, you know, really out of there person. But as I've like tried to tell people, it's like one thing I hate when people say to me is that you don't look like someone who's got mental health, and that's the thing that gets to me. Because I know people say it from like a not in a negative um impression, but it's still that. But why did I have to look like someone that has mental health? And that's where it comes back. I think it is the media that's done that to people, and even in all of our mental health activism, there is still a gap in audience that aren't being reached, and they're still uneducated, ignorant, whatever it may be. So I think that's the duty of the media, and that's why I'm so invested in being a media volunteer, because
Absolutely.
I
Because
guess
it reaches the masses, because you know you can give a workshop to 5 people and have the staff come up to you after, compliment you and say how much your story changed their outlooks. But luckily with the media you can affect the masses, and that's why it's so brilliant that you have the confidence. And you know, I'm so inspired by that you have the confidence to do that and tell your story to such a wide audience. It's so important.
yeah, definitely. I it's just like as you said, you can take a workshop, but know that that workshop you're given is going to be attended by people who have direct or indirect experience of mental health already. So that's somewhat insightful of what mental illness is. But for that audience, which is probably the majority, because actually when you step out, the other day someone said to me, you think of everything in a mental health fashion. I thought, wow, actually that's true, you know, because now because I'm so invested in campaigning, I forget to step out of the box sometimes. So anything I create, anything I think of, it will always have the words mental health in it. And it's like, but it doesn't have to. Your title on it. And yeah, I think there's just a gap. That's the priority of the media. That's what the media will do. Like as I said, the workshop will be attended by people who have an interest, relation, or experience of mental health. Other than that, people even like, to be blunt honest, I don't reckon anyone has joined this live that has no experience of mental health. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
No, of course, exactly. It's all, yeah. I guess what you're saying is, you know, mass media makes this kind of education far more accessible, and really it should be in schools from the onset. And I remember I had a conversation with someone really recently when we were talking about schizophrenia, and they're not medical, but they said, isn't that split personality disorder? And I think that is so misleading, and it comes from films and how people have been portrayed. You know, that film with James McAvoy, Split, where he's got like 7 different personalities, and like the word schizo, the German origin is split. So I mean, they probably didn't have enough information back then when they coined it, but it's just not representative of what the true illness really means. And it's so unhelpful, I think, because
Yeah.
it just makes it more unrelatable, when really everyone with mental illness, from severe mental illness to common mental health disorders, you will be able to relate to them because we all have mental health. And so if you could just share a little bit about your story, and you know, when you kind of had the moment that, you know, when you had that kind of penny drop moment when you knew, okay, I am going to get better, like I will be fine.
Oh, okay, all right. So do you want to know like the story leading up to my mental illness, or coming out of, or like going
Yeah,
into?
everything. I guess, you know, the stage is yours. Go for it from the beginning.
Yeah. So when I was like this, so it first, I guess, yeah, it first started when I was about 15, going through my GCSE. So yeah, 15. Yeah, 15. Um, I was like really stressed out about my GCSEs because I was quite one of the top achieving black males in my high school, and I was, I guess, pressured by, not pressured, but I put pressure on myself from other
Mm,
people's expectations. When I say other people's expectations, I mean my own expectations, my teachers' expectations, my parents' expectations, my peers' expectations. They didn't do it directly, but the things they would say positively would create that pressure in my mind, because it was like, now I don't want to let them down. So
sure.
yeah, going through my GCSEs, and I just, yeah, stressed out about that, feeling that I didn't want to let no one down, and you know, or people's expectations down. I guess back then I was more worried about other people's opinion of me rather than what I actually felt. So after, or just before I finished my last exam, I started also suffering from pseudo seizures because of that stress I was going through. So the pseudo seizures were going on, the stress I was going on, the GCSEs were going on, and in the family, I guess, especially from a African community, it's like I'm the youngest out of four brothers, so I felt like I drew the short straw. So I, you know, again, that pressure was there. I just kept giving myself pressure and like reasons to over sort of estimate myself. Then I went in, then I done my GCSEs, done all of my GCSEs, went into sixth form college. However, at sixth form college, things went better in terms of pressure. They were one had gone because of my GCSEs. One stimuli pressure had gone because of my GCSEs. I still had that. I have to keep maintaining this. I have to keep going. I have to keep going. You know, I can't. You know, not until I'm that person. I can't. And I had, I guess, aspirations to be a doctor at the time, but excuse me, but not because I had a passion specifically for being a doctor. I had a passion
Sure.
for save people's lives, but not specifically a doctor. I think that sort of doctor aspiration came again from the pressure of other people and wanting to be accepted in society. So, you know, I thought, you know, if I become a doctor, no one can sort of shun me or say anything. You know, doctors are high status, so I have to, you know, to win the situation. So yeah, then I got I kept having the seizures as well, and there was one, and I was given medication for my seizures, because at the time they didn't know it was pseudo seizures, they thought it was epileptic seizures. So I
Mm,
was given the medication, clobazam, I think it was, and one of the side effects of clobazam is if you're already experiencing mental health difficulties. At this time, I should have mentioned it. So at this time, I've actually been referred to child adolescent mental health service, actually, because I was quite confrontational and, you know, just frustrated and stuff like that. Again with the stress. So yeah, I was given them clobazam to try control my epileptic seizures. So the first time taking it, I woke up the next day, and I don't know, I just, yeah, one of the side effects is that if you already have a mental health or experience mental health symptoms, whatever, it enhances those feelings and can give you that sort of feeling to want to attempt suicide. So the morning on the way to college, I woke up feeling exactly like that. I was really low. I just, in my head, I thought this was final. And prior to this, I had already, I guess, been built myself up to this day anyway, because, you know, I was talking to friends about it. I was telling them I'm hopeless, and, you know, writing suicide letters and stuff. So this, I guess, was the final, strand for me, and I thought, yeah, this is basically the day. So anyway, I woke up and I put this knife in my bag that I got from the kitchen, and I started making my way to college. On my way to college now, I called my child adolescent mental health service, and I called them and I said, something bad is gonna happen today. I just wanted to let you know. And they were like, who is this? Can you tell us who this is and stuff? But I was trying to keep it anonymous, although I'm actually certainly asking for help. So I said, no, I can't give you my name. I can't let you know that you'll ruin my plans, and so on. And this is probably the part where I feel like where I kind of gave myself up. But they asked me for my date of birth, but I thought at that time, my date of birth, how many people are going to have my date of birth in a child adolescent mental health service? I thought they're not going to, find me for my date of birth. So I said, okay, yeah, 16/12/1997. Hung up the phone now. I've gone into college because my plan was to go through college and make everything look normal so no one suspected anything, because I get quite adamant on that plan that I had. Now I'm in my second class or first class, and I've been pulled out of class by my head of year. And she's pulled me out and she sat me in her office. She said, oh, we've gotten a call from CAMS. Are you okay? They've asked for you to come into their office. Is everything all right? And at this moment, I'm not answering. I'm just like, I guess frustrated, angry, but that small sense of relief as well. But I couldn't recognize that small sense of relief at the time. So I'm clouded by anger and frustration because I'm thinking I'm going to have to keep putting up with what I'm putting up with. Anyway, so I've now been taken to my child adolescent mental health service. As I'm in the meeting room with my psychiatrist and my psychologist and my brother, she's asking me what's happened, what's going on. We've gotten this call, but we're not ignoring her, but I'm hearing voices that are telling me you need to do it now, you need to do it now, it will never be done, sort of thing. Like if you don't do it now, it will never be done, and you'll keep being this person and all of these things. So I'm slowly pulling out the knife and just saying, you've ruined everything, as she's asking me what's happened. By the time I probably got to the blade to about here, my brother spotted it and he's rugby tackled me to the ground. Tackled me to the ground. My psychiatrist has pressed the panic alarm, which brings police and ambulance, and they've gone out the room. Now my brother's on the ground with me holding on to the knife, but he's holding on to the blade with his bare hands, and he's saying to me, if you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to have to cut through my hands. So eventually I've let go of the knife because, yeah, I'm just not going to have to go through hurting my brother to hurt myself. I've let go of the knife, and my brother's thrown the knife to the other side of the room. Now my psychiatrist has come back into the room, and the police have come into the room as well. Now my psychiatrist is telling the police, I don't want him to be arrested. Like, why is he going to be arrested? He wasn't trying to hurt any of us. He was distressed and he was going to take his own life. But the police were like, it doesn't matter. He's in a room with a knife. He needs to be prosecuted for being in a room with a knife. It's what they called affray, putting the lives of other people in danger, which is ridiculous in a sense when you think of it. Affray, putting the lives of other people in danger, but it was only my life I was trying to take. Anyway, so now they've taken me to the police station and they've put me in a police cell to basically find out how they'll deal with the matter. And at this point, and I think my psychiatrist had a say in this, but I've come out and they said, okay, we're going to let you leave with no further action, but we're going to have to escort you to the hospital. So again, I'm angry because it's like I've gone from being angry and frustrated because someone's ruined my plan to now being angry and frustrated because you've made me feel like a criminal, even though I was the one, upset with myself. Why do you remember specifically the police officer saying to me, well, no one told you to pull out a knife? And I looked at her and I thought, wow, that's how you see it. That's all you see it as. Then they got to the hostel. They dropped me at the hostel. From the hostel, my psychiatrist has booked me a bed at the Priory, where I was at first actually not on section, but because I tried to leave, I ended up being put on section. So I stayed there on section for 2 years, because at first you're trying to not engage, you're just trying to stay in your room because you think time will pass, time will pass, time will pass. But you realize that staying in your room, the doctors only think you're not getting better. So it just keeps getting extended. And then you think, all right, you know what, now I'm angry because it keeps getting extended. So then again, it keeps getting extended to the point where, you know what, you're used to it now. You know how you're going to get out of this. It's not going to be by not engaged. It's not going to be by lashing out or anything like that. It's really just taking the help that they're trying to give you, I guess. And when I started to get towards the end, that's when I started to sort of work my way towards coming out of hospital, and the patients there as well would actually help me towards that recovery as well. Once I got out, everyone, was just like, you've got so much potential, you shouldn't be in here, make sure you don't come back, we don't ever want to see you back. Yeah. And then
so how old were you when you got out?
So I was in 16 and I was like 18 when I got out. Yeah, and then that's when I was diagnosed with undifferentiated schizophrenia and emotional unstable personality disorder.
And what does undifferentiated schizophrenia mean?
So schizophrenia has about 4 subgroups. I can't remember exactly what they are, but I think it's like the paranoid schizophrenia. So they have different subgroups basically of schizophrenia. Undifferentiated means my schizophrenia does not only fit in one of those groups. It's basically it has aspects of each group that it doesn't get singled down to just one of those groups. So it's basically undifferentiated. So it's nothing different from all 4. That's basically, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that just so vividly. Like, I can't imagine like the emotions of your family and and the psychiatrist and your brother who were in the room with you. But just even hearing, like, I've watched your videos, but even just hearing you tell your story now, it's just so emotionally charged. And wow, just, such a struggle, but look at you now, and it's fascinating, just how much resilience you must have to have got to this stage from where you were. And I'm so glad that you're still on this earth. Thank goodness for that. And I just wanted you to touch a little bit on when the police were kind of potentially discriminating against you slightly and really not seeing the kind of deeper aspects of what mental illness is and the kind of manifestations that has in behaviour, but just kind of looking at it really superficially as this young boy had a knife, he's bad. I wanted you to just kind of go into a little bit more around that, talking about the stigma, and maybe talking a little bit about the racial factors as well, and what you thought, and maybe your loved ones as well thought, like, maybe I don't know if you think that race had anything to do with those assumptions that the police were making, and just why it is so important for you to have these conversations around mental illness within Black and minority groups.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my own frustration against the police came from that experience. It's not something that just grew on me because of whatever's been created, that gap that's really been created between Black communities and the police. I had a personal experience with them.
Absolutely.
But I do believe race had a part to play with it, because my psychiatrist was the first one to say to them he was not harming himself. He was not harming anyone else, or he was harming himself. So why do you have to take the police station? And second of all, the attending officer who spoke to my psychiatrist said to me, look, I don't even want to take you to the police cell. I can see what's going on here. But the sergeant or whoever above him on the radio is telling him, I don't care. He had a knife in the room. You have to arrest him. So he was the one that said to me, look, there's nothing really I can do here. My hands are tied behind my back. The one favor he did do me was, I won't put you in handcuffs. That was the best thing he could do, which I appreciate, and this is where I think for me it's been gone on so long that I had this frustration towards the police that I know carrying it on, holding on to it wasn't going to make me feel better towards them. So that's when I decided I want to, I guess, assist them in dealing with matters better. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of like, I still sort of hold that day to heart. So I don't necessarily want to be, you know, partnered with them, but I want to offer insight for them to be able to manage it better.
So it doesn't happen to other guys in your
Exactly.
situation. And I just think that is just the most compassionate thing of you, that you could put your negative experience about and actually, you know, make the lemonade out of that lemon. And I just think that's so powerful. It's just showing how kind of selfless you are and kind of other activists are when you see a bigger picture and you want to do better for others so it doesn't happen to them, even though it was such a kind of horrible gross situation to happen to yourself. I think it's incredible
I,
that you took that
I
upon yourself to do that.
I actually learned that from the patients I was in hospital with, you know, like they would put their differences aside. Like there was a girl there who was there before me and still there after me, and she, the whole time I was there, would put her differences aside to try and motivate me to get better. And that's where, yeah, my compassion to sort of like, you know, let me put my experiences away and help other people because I know I can get through it, but I don't know that anyone else can get through it, you know. And I always just try to tell people within reason, don't always think that people can't pour out of an empty cup. You may not just be able to see what's coming out of that empty cup. Because that's exactly how I felt with all the other patients who were trying to push me. And at the end, were like, to me, don't come back here. You have so much potential. We don't want to see you back here. Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you do with the police to really educate them around being more humane and compassionate to young people and people from Black and minority groups with mental illness?
So I give talks to like the mine induction days, so to police and staff induction days. I gave talks then during the mental health workshops, and also um in the midst of creating a podcast where people from the criminal justice system are a guest on it to basically empower those who have experience and educate those who don't have any experience. So educating those would be people from the criminal justice system, because I think as I said in my bio, I think the best way for people is to people to recover is to connect with others and, you know, see and hear from others, and that doesn't just come from people with experience, it comes from people without experience, because that contrast really gives that sort of perspective, you know. So for me, it's, yeah, I'm associating with them in sense of giving them talks, giving talks on my experience, but also bringing them together physically to, you know, not go at each other, but sit there and have this discussion, because not every police is bad. Not every police is bad, and it's not that, you know,
Absolutely.
that all of them want to be ignorant or not pay attention. I once had a conversation with a police officer on the street with one of his members of his team on that day. Was like, he would, let's say he was the bad apple out of the basket, and I spoke to him and I spoke to other police officers because they pulled me aside and I was like, look, everything you've said here is actually so correct, and I actually credit you so much for the way you've approached the situation, but it's as simple as we are the police, we will never, ever, ever, no matter how wrong one of our members are, admit in front of anyone else that they are wrong, because it makes us as a team look weak and vulnerable. And I have that. So he said to me, if you ever see him again by himself, I'll give you my green light to go and ask him for an apology. But right now, here and now, they've had to take him away to avoid anything further, because they just can't be seen as that negative, as that pair of people. So yeah, I think sometimes it's just institution. It's not individuals. Institution.
100%. I think, you know, I actually think that is a huge shame, because fallibility is so important. And even in medicine, doctors make mistakes. They're not superhumans. And it's so important for the public to also realize that there is sometimes going to be human error, and it is really sad when, you know, a life is lost or a life is damaged when a doctor has made an error, but it does happen. And likewise with the police, you know, also working for the government, a public service, there really should be that ability to have fallibility and own it and own up to it rather than shy away from it. And it's just the classic stiff British upper lip. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's just a huge shame, I think, in a, you know, to kind of live. It's so backwards.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, definitely. That's yeah, it is with everything, isn't it? Like, even I think I told you the other day or the other week, I said to you, look, within mental health, it's such a sensitive topic that not everyone's going to agree with the way one person champions it or one person campaigns about it. It's such a
Yeah,
sensitive topic that someone somewhere will feel offended by how we ch- but it's just how the world is. You know, you're not going to, I guess, settle for just one opinion. You're going to want to, it's politics, you know. You make a decision knowing that someone is going to get upset from that decision, but you want to please the majority anyway.
exactly. And tell us about, because we're going to finish off soon, even though I could literally talk to you for 12 hours, I reckon, probably. Tell us about why you were driven to study psychology, because you mentioned that, you know, at one point you were potentially thinking of becoming a doctor, but maybe that was to please people and earn that place in society. Where did psychology come into it? Was it before or after your mental illness diagnosis?
So yeah, it was after my mental illness diagnosis. I guess I realized that, look, although I'm not going to be a doctor, I can still save lives in the sense that I'm telling my story.
100%.
So
100%.
that that's where I decided, you know what, if I'm going to try follow that through, I want to know more about it. I don't want to just know about my experience. I don't want to just know about mental health. I want to know about the whole umbrella term. You know, I want to know about psychology as a whole. And in fact, I've always had, I guess, a passion for the brain as well. I first started off with an interest in body language as well. To be honest, I have a huge interest in body language. And yeah, it just went on from there. I guess things just, you know, I guess things just settled into that so easily and so accordingly that, you know, I thought, okay, you know what, I've studied psychology and neuroscience, and yeah, I've not once ever regretted or hated a day of that course. And even lecturers will be like you're probably the only person in university so really that knows exactly what they want and what they want to do. But a fun fact, I don't actually want to follow through with psychology. I just want to do it as a bachelor's to gain that knowledge and experience. In fact, I actually want to go after and do a master's in government and politics, as I've been putting out there on my Instagram so much. Antonio for MP, I want to go into public health.
Yes, Antonio for oh gosh, I've just kind of got too excited there. Antonio for MP, I love that. Oh my god, I'm doing it again. Apologies. Way too excited. That is amazing. So what would that, when does your degree finish? When do you want to do this master's?
So I still have another 2 years.
Wow. Dude, don't
Yeah.
worry, honestly, I've just finished 6 years of medicine, so never feel like you're too old to learn. You always,
Yeah.
you know, I know that being in hospital for 2 years must have been frustrating to kind of getting on with it and seeing friends around you progressing. But, you know, you can never stop learning, and it's amazing that this you found your calling. So many people find their calling so much later in life, and by then they realize, you know what, it's too late. I've got responsibilities now. So it's
Yeah.
amazing that you know what you want to do. That's really, really cool. And so you're studying at Essex,
Yeah.
and how are they in terms of like being supportive towards you? And do you know if there are any other kind of people on your course with lived experience of mental illness? Like, how is that kind of dealt with? Because it's really interesting when you yourself have the experience and you're learning the theory behind it too.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think it's for me. It's. I think anywhere I go, I just end up being like an ambassador for mental health. But I think that's not because of who I am. It's just because simply, and correct me if I'm wrong, your output is your input. So how much you give out to people is how much you get back. So the fact that I'm so passionate about mental health and like championing mental health is like people
Mm.
recognize that and the opportunity to do it. So even at my university, I've been so involved with the wellbeing ambassadors,
Brilliant.
the SU for welfare, my Essex Abroad department, my actual class and lecturers. My lecturer has psychology lecturers asked me before, and I've done it to give a lecture presentation to my class about my experience. So all these things, are around because one is so open and engaging about mental illness. My classmates, I'm again quite confidently sure that they would come to me and ask for that kind of support, and with university it's difficult because there's a lot of stuff out there's a lot of support out there, but you're not told about it, and also students don't look for it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. This is exactly what I've realized as well, because I was at Bristol, and there's obviously quite a lot of mental health issues there, as there are amongst other universities, and the biggest issue is that students don't know where to look, and the kind of best way is through peer-to-peer support, because you don't want to talk to the people who are grading you about your mental health issues,
yeah,
and it becomes really complex when you don't actually tailor it to how a student, the millennial mind, approaches a situation.
yeah, definitely, yeah. So I mean, that's, yeah, so I was just trying to push that everywhere I go. And I have a key worker from the wellbeing department at university, but me and her, when we have, usually she's even said to me, usually when I'm having conversations with other people that I sort of look after, it's usually they've got a
Yeah.
problem to, or something's wrong. But she's like, every time we come to have a meeting together, you're telling me how wonderful things are and how things are going.
Yeah.
She was like, it's
You're probably teaching her, and probably teaching her more than she's kind of like providing you with like wisdom.
yeah,
You've got all the wisdom within yourself. You've got the intuition and the resilience. It's amazing.
yeah. I
And
mean, it's a positive atmosphere.
yeah, and as you know, I think I've told you offline, I'm currently working in a psychiatric intensive care unit. I'm working on a male ward, so with a lot of patients who have psychosis and diagnoses from bipolar to schizoaffective disorder to schizophrenia. And I've just qualified as a junior doctor, and I'm really passionate about being a psychiatrist. I've wanted to be it since I was 15. So as someone who has had a lot of experience in mental health services, what would you say that you would want, most psychiatrists to take on board? What would be your kind of top tips and your kind of checklist for being a good psychiatrist from the patient perspective?
I think one thing, I don't know, that's a hard question actually. I guess from my experience, one thing that I underappreciate at the time, but moving on from it, really look back and think, wish someone saying that to me, is when I was at CAMS, my psychiatrist was always asking me, how can we help you? So, if I was asked that during my adult service, I'd give you that answer. Unfortunately, I only got asked that question during CAMS, so I could never know. I'd always answer like, well, you're supposed to know that, you're the doctor. But that quickly turns into the doctors telling you what you need to get better, what you need to do, and you disagree with these things. So I guess it's just having a subjective mind, not taking that book approach to every single person, like generalizations, every disorder or experience or diagnosis. I think it's just really that, what can we do to help you sort of vibe. It's like, I want you to help me champion my own
Mm-hmm.
mental kind of thing, like as it is, I already know I'm here to get help. I already know what your role is as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, but mental health isn't treated the same way as everyone says, as a broken leg. You're not just going to give me like off the book prescription because that's what helps best with my sort of symptoms. The symptoms are always subjective. So I think that honestly would be my top tip, is just that, how can we, and if I don't have an answer for you, help me find that answer,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I stack that with my support. I was, especially before becoming an adult, my support, I was quite fortunate in my psychiatrists were super helpful. Like, they would do as much as they could to help me, even my care coordinator as well. But that isn't to be taken lightly because I'm 1 in 10. You know, I was fortunate, 9 others aren't, so that's nowhere near enough. But yeah, for me, it was just, yeah, that, I guess, that single compassion. And fair enough, I know, like, a lot of recovery really comes from yourself, you know, like, you've got to want to get better. So I also feel that in those services, they could see I wanted to get better. But again, yeah, it's just, you know, taking that interest. Like, I feel with you, it wouldn't be the same as with them because you have that actual passion and interest. Whereas I think for quality control, they were only doing it for that status or income or whatever it would have been. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, for me, it's
Yeah.
just that I, what do you want from us to help you, kind of
Yeah.
thing. How can we help you?
That partnership.
Mm.
I really, really like that. And I think that's kind of like health coaching in a way. And it's kind of finding out, like, you know, when you have a coach, it's like, what does the client want, finding out their goals, and then trying to help them with their motivation to get there. And I think that's such sound advice and something I definitely want to take on board. So just thank you so much, Antonio. Honestly, I'm gutted that I have to end our chat because I just feel like I learned so much from you, and people, you know, are so lucky to kind of learn from you. And it's just brilliant that you are so kind of selfless in all the work that you do. And I love that we've got this whole MP journey to come still. So I'm so up for watching that journey. And just a huge thank you to you. It's been really, really great talking.
Yeah, no, the feeling's mutual, and yeah, but thank you for having me on your IG. Yeah.